Well, you and I share a border, so we're neighboring constituencies, but just to be clear, that this is not because we're neighbors.
Right, okay.
This was because there was a genuine need and an emergency. But outside of that, there is a bigger picture. The government has been very assertive and energetic in its housing program. In fact, we have been building so many houses now, people say that they are tired to see me breaking ground on housing projects. But we will be even intensifying our build out of housing stock next
possible?
year. Yes, we still have the capacity to do more. But in doing that, it so happens that the focus ends up being on new housing solutions, and then there is the equity issue, because you're going to be building solutions for persons who are at a position to afford a mortgage, because none of the houses that we're building are free housing in any sense. So there is still a need for social housing, and there is still a need for a program to address situations like these. So many of these areas are built out areas. This area in which we're standing was a residential area. It is a residential area. These areas were built, some of them in the 50s and 60s. In fact, we're here, Olympic Gardens. This area was built after the 1952 Olympics, and indeed many of the roads are named after Olympians. But after many years of families moving out, political, warfare, social issues, the communities have decayed, and the housing stock would have decayed.
Yeah.
And that now poses a threat to life.
And stability.
Fire can destroy any house. Let's be frank with that. But the risk of danger and hazards to young children are even greater in housing solutions like these. And therefore, in my constituency and in yours, we oftentimes face fires where it's not just the property that is destroyed, but oftentimes young children are killed. I mean, in my constituency, almost every year we have seen it. We started a program where we recognize that aside from the housing stock issue, there is the issue of energy poverty, because many of the persons who reside here are not able to pay for electricity, and you have the issue of the illegal abstraction of electricity, which then lends itself to becoming another hazard. So we have started a program where we have distributed solar lamps in order to prevent fires from starting because of the illegal abstraction of electricity, or the lack of electricity, where people have to use candles. Candles turn over and houses get destroyed. So that has really worked. Thank God we haven't had any in my constituency this year, and I've seen only one or so that would have happened earlier this year, so I haven't seen any fires caused by that. But when I heard about this one, it was, again, close to my heart. And so we had a word with the HOPE program. Now, the HOPE program, as you would know, is designed to be MP driven, meaning that the MPs are generally closer to the ground. They understand the needs of the constituencies, and oftentimes the truth is that the constituents are going to come to them, as I'm certain that Ms. Herman would have come to you asking for assistance. So what it is that we have allocated a certain amount of funds in the budget, close to $1 billion. That sounds like a lot. It is not a lot of money. And it is distributed island-wide, and each member of parliament has been given 5 housing solutions, so they can, based upon their demand and in consultation with the HOPE Secretariat, determine each year 5 housing problems that they have that they need to solve, and they can use the resources. So it's designed to deal with situations like these. So this obviously would be what we call in Jamaica a big yard. You have several households living in the one home, and if there is a fire, everybody gets dislocated, not just one household. The circumstances would not be considered ideal in terms of how sewage is disposed, how they get water, their roofing, cooking facilities, bathroom facilities, all of those issues. So the program is designed to deal with these, what we call big yards, where there are many households, many young children, and to improve the housing stock. In rural areas, it might be a little bit different, and so MPs might choose to deal with really bad housing stock. You know, someone has a really poor housing condition, and you treat with it. So the program has started. You know, we can't, because it's such a massive program, we have to pilot a program. We have to pilot test it. We have to develop the various modalities that are going to be used. And so it takes a little time. So you would have heard from Mr. Walker, who is the executive director of this element of the program, that is the housing element of the program, that it took 4 months. We would really like to reduce that period of response, but there are many elements to it. You have to get permitting, you have to determine who owns the land, which usually takes a long time, because it's hard to, because these properties have been here for so many years, the owners migrate, they die, you don't really know. So the government has to be careful how it puts down hard structures like these on properties that it can't say who owns it. So we have to spend some time to determine who owns it. And then, it's not just that we're sending contractors to work. We have to do some planning. We have to make sure that, we have proper plans for it. And then there's a procurement to get the things done. So it will take some time. But one of the reasons why we ensured that Mr. Walker was the director was that you may recall that he was the head of something called the ONR, the Office of National Reconstruction, that was responsible for Hurricane Ivan recovery. And so he would know how to put these kinds of programs together for the urgency of the response. So 4 months seems long, but in the grand scheme of all that has to be done, it's relatively an efficient pace. But still, Danville, as fast as we can, let's do it. Let's do it. So I know you have started to roll out across constituencies. It is by no means the solution or the answer to the general problem, because as you go across Jamaica, you will see problems in housing like these, and it's huge. It's not going to be solved by government. I mean, ultimately, the solution is to get the housing market, the private housing market, to respond and to improve people's income so that they can reinvest in their housing. So as the economy improves, people will be able to even do the simple things like fix their roofs or repaint their buildings. But that will take time. But what we are doing is to make sure that we get to those who are urgently in need, that we deal with those who are vulnerable, and we deal with those that are most affected, particularly families with many young children or with many elderly. And so that is the idea of the housing aspect of the HOPE program. So it is working. So the housing, the HOPE program, as you would know, there is the employment component, which is creating an apprenticeship modality, which would have served over 20,000 youngsters by now, would have gone through some form of apprenticeship in the housing aspect of it, in the employment aspect. In the housing aspect of it, we have just started. The opportunities aspect, we are working to roll that out, and the production aspect will be rolled out soon. So the HOPE program as a whole is working and is giving Jamaicans hope. I'm certain, Ms. Herman, that you now have a new hope with your new house.